Picture this. The Late Show's stage is buzzing, the lights glinting off polished wood, the audience primed for some Hollywood charm, and then he walks in, Tom Cruise. Yes, the Tom Cruise. That confident, megawatt smile, that movie star stride. He's here to talk up his latest blockbuster, maybe toss a few humble brags, flash those perfect teeth, and keep it all clean and classy. But Stephen Colbert, with that mischievous twinkle in his eye, throws out a curveball. So, Tom, listen to any interesting podcasts lately? Tom leans in, lowers his voice just enough to make it feel like a secret, and drops the bomb. I tried listening to Confessions of a Female Founder. Had to eject faster than in Top Gun. Boom. The audience erupts. Laughter, gasps, clapping. But this wasn't just a throwaway late-night quip. This was a torpedo aimed straight at Meghan Markle's freshly polished media empire, and it hit dead center. Her new podcast had just launched. Big budget, glossy trailers, the kind of marketing push that screams, "We're here to dominate." Meghan had wrapped herself in the banner of empowerment, the champion of female entrepreneurs, the voice of modern women carving their place in the world. This was supposed to be her grand creative rebirth, her "I'm more than just a former royal" moment. But Tom didn't just roast a podcast. He shattered the whole image with one perfectly timed, perfectly aimed joke. Because deep down, a lot of people were already whispering the same thing. Meghan's content wasn't inspiring. It was exhausting. Confessions of a Female Founder was sold as a celebration of women breaking barriers. But instead of spotlighting fresh, diverse voices, the spotlight seemed permanently fixed on one person, Meghan herself, her struggles, her hardships, her story. And somehow, those struggles were being told from the comfort of a Montecito mansion with million-dollar landscaping in the background. It started to feel less like a movement and more like a TED Talk from someone who just discovered LinkedIn buzzwords. And then came the critics. Not the tabloids, but the very feminist and cultural outlets that were once her strongest allies. NPR, emotionally manipulative. The Guardian, therapy disguised as activism. Even The Cut and Bustle, which had once practically written her fan mail, began pulling back. One blogger's review went viral. "If Meghan is a female founder, then I'm a female astronaut." Ouch. The thing is, Tom's jab stung because it wasn't just funny. It was true. And it came from someone with serious Hollywood clout, a man who could make or break careers with a passing comment. He didn't whisper it at an after-party. He said it on air. Behind closed doors, Meghan reportedly lost it. Sources say she was blindsided, furious, pacing. This was supposed to be her Joe Rogan moment, a smash hit, a cultural talking point. Instead, it was a meme. The comeback narrative collapsed before it even got started. And here's the dagger twist. The people Meghan needed most, the ones who could have helped her weather the storm, they went silent. Gloria Steinem, whom Meghan had proudly name-dropped in interviews, slipped in a cutting MSNBC quote, "Feminism isn't a performance." No names mentioned, but the shade was crystal clear. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, once cited by Meghan as a personal inspiration, dodged the connection entirely. When asked whether celebrities were helping or hurting feminism, she smirked. Some confuse attention with impact. By now, it was clear this wasn't a minor PR hiccup. This was a full-blown reputational freefall. And the questions swirling in Hollywood were brutal. Did Meghan even get the medium she was trying to dominate? Or was this just another glossy project from someone too insulated, too controlling, and too out of touch? Because here's the truth. Great podcasting is raw. It's messy. It's vulnerable. Confessions? It was none of those things. It was sterile, overproduced, safe to the point of dullness. And when Tom Cruise calls your content boring, you're in trouble. The Late Show clips spread like wildfire, chopped into TikToks, memed on Twitter, spliced into Instagram Reels. The internet didn't just laugh, it cringed. Even Hollywood insiders who had been politely holding their tongues started speaking up in whispers. The podcast wasn't just a flop, it was a warning sign. Spotify had already learned this lesson once with Archetypes. That was supposed to be the project. A-list guests, a massive multi-million-dollar deal, a marketing blitz so big you could see it from space. And yet, listeners bailed, critics rolled their eyes. Even Spotify executives, once enthusiastic cheerleaders, quietly backed away. When the dust settled, the platform cut ties with Meghan and Harry entirely, citing, in blunt corporate speak, failure to meet productivity benchmarks. Translation: millions spent, not much to show for it. And now, Netflix was starting to feel the same pressure. They'd banked on her hybrid docuseries with Love Meghan and hoped the podcast would be the rising tide lifting all her other projects. Instead, it was dragging the brand down. Behind the scenes, the whispers were sharp. Reese Witherspoon's Hello Sunshine. Strong storytelling, depth, no drama. Meghan's show? A glitter-covered paperweight. Pretty, but useless. One Netflix executive reportedly called it a never-ending lecture. Another was harsher. She wants Oprah-level credibility without Oprah-level work. And that was the heart of it. Meghan's platform was supposed to be about storytelling, but her stories were curated to death. All edges sanded off, all risks avoided. The result? Not authenticity, just a highlight reel of carefully polished trauma and PR-approved empowerment. Once Tom's jab detonated across the internet, Meghan's problems started multiplying like paparazzi outside a royal hospital. The criticism wasn't just coming from strangers or bored social media users. It was coming from inside her own circle. The people who had once sworn loyalty, the big names who had lifted her up. Oprah, yes, that Oprah, the queenmaker herself, had been a cornerstone in Meghan and Harry's post-royal rebirth. She'd given them that history-making sit-down interview, a soft but scathing showcase that positioned Meghan as the wronged heroine. That moment had catapulted them into global sympathy and a new kind of celebrity. But according to whispers from Harpo Productions, Oprah wasn't about to risk her own brand twice, not after seeing the backlash Meghan's projects were pulling. She wasn't signing on to clean up another mess. Then there was Tyler Perry, the man who literally gave them a mansion when they fled the UK, who provided security, shelter, and public backup when they needed it most. Now, radio silence, no shout-outs, no public shows of support. The Hollywood grapevine said Perry was distancing. And Ellen DeGeneres, once she couldn't stop gushing about how fresh and real Meghan was. But fans noticed something strange. Ellen unfollowed Meghan on social media. In the cutthroat world of celebrity PR, an unfollow isn't just a click. It's a flashing neon sign saying, "We're done here." The final sting? Beyoncé's camp reportedly rejected a quiet collaboration request from Archewell. One insider spilled to Variety. They don't want the drama. Meghans Brand is too high risk right now. Translation: when even Beyoncé's people won't touch your content, your red flags aren't just flying, they're doing air shows over Malibu. At this point, it was no longer about a podcast. This was about trust, credibility. And Meghan's carefully built image of resilience and empowerment was crumbling like cheap stage props under a spotlight. Audiences are forgiving when struggle feels real. They can rally behind someone's pain if it's honest. But when your vulnerability feels like it was storyboarded in a PR meeting, they'll drop you faster than a bad Netflix pilot. And drop her they did. The feminist media space, once her safest ground, flipped. NPR's culture desk didn't mince words. Narratively hollow. A feminist blogger wrote, "This isn't female leadership, it's brand therapy." Even those who wanted to defend her found themselves running out of patience. Kristen Netton, a contributor at Forbes Tech, delivered the death blow. "You can't market authenticity. You either have it or you don't." That line didn't just trend. It spread like wildfire through Hollywood's internal channels. Industry Slack groups passed it around. Executives quoted it in meetings. Podcast producers laughed about it over coffee. And the numbers told the same grim story. Confessions of a Female Founder couldn't break the top 100 charts anywhere, not in the US, the UK, or Canada. In America, it skimmed the top 10 in launch week. But curiosity can only carry you so far. Once people actually listened, they bailed. Drop-off rates? Sky high. Engagement? Flatlined. The reviews tanked. Listeners weren't angry. They were bored. And in media, bored is worse than furious. Behind the curtain, Meghan's own team was falling apart. Staffers whispered about burnout, endless approval chains, constant rewrites, Meghan's refusal to pivot or accept pushback. She demanded total creative control. That meant no editorial backbone, no real challenge, just an echo chamber where the only voice that mattered was hers. And as the outside criticism grew sharper, Meghan's grip got tighter. Instead of adapting, she doubled down. But that only pushed her further from the audience she claimed to champion. Meanwhile, Netflix wasn't sticking around to watch her sink. They quietly began freezing development on future Archewell projects. Budgets got slashed, emails went unanswered, and in closed-door pitch meetings, they started openly seeking replacements. Reese Witherspoon, Issa Rae, unknown female founders with genuine, messy, compelling stories. Meghan wasn't just losing her audience, she was being replaced. Hollywood can be ruthless, but it's also simple. Once people decide you're inauthentic, you're radioactive. Meghan hadn't just lost the room, she'd lost the spotlight entirely. And then came the quiet. The phone stopped ringing, the invitations dried up, the friends, the allies, the cheerleaders, gone. Even the memes faded, not because people forgave her, but because they'd moved on. The empire she'd tried to build on storytelling, empowerment, and perfectly staged vulnerability was collapsing in real time. And now, all that was left was the sound of doors closing, softly but permanently. The lights were dimmed, the microphones were off, the grand comeback. It didn't just fail, it disappeared. Not with applause, not with outrage, but with the most dangerous sound in show business: silence. Silence.